I didn't know what I wanted to do. I hadn't planned what I wanted to do yet. That I subconsciously relied upon routine in order to navigate that substantive change. When you're going through substantial change, take it one step at a time. Hello everyone and welcome to another video. 2 weeks ago I put a short on YouTube about, while I was driving, about the importance of having routine in your life, particularly having a routine when you're going through a period of substantive change or large or big change in your life, and how a routine can help you get through the steps that are necessary to affect that change and to live with that change, whatever that change may be. Whatever the reason for the change, it could be health, it could be work, it could be lifestyle change. There are many reasons why people would have a big change in their lives, irrespective of whether they were in control of that change or not. But what happens is when you, certainly for me, when you go through a period of substantial change in your life, what happened for me was that I subconsciously relied upon routine in order to navigate that substantive change. A little bit of context: I left the expat world of almost 20 years and came back to live in Ireland almost 3 years ago. I did that because my young son, 9 at the time, 12 now, don't they grow very quick, had been all around the world. He'd lived in many countries where I have basically taken him almost from the time he was born, and never had the opportunity to settle, to grow friends, to have a community and grow up and just get some roots. And that was not there for him. And the same, I suppose, really to me. I mean, I longed for the opportunity to come back to my home at the end of every day. And that simply doesn't happen when you're working in an expat environment. So we came back. That happened really quickly. I mean, all of a sudden I was back home in Ireland, and I'd moved back. I now had a new home, a new life, potentially new work. I didn't have work at this stage. I hadn't even decided what I was going to do. I mean, I'd been in construction management at senior management level for decades, and I kind of wanted something different. That wasn't what I wanted to do, but it was what it was, but it was substantive change. And I went through a little bit of sort of rabbit in the headlights kind of thing. What am I going to do now? I've done this now. What am I going to do? Work-wise, home-wise, family-wise, this was all new to me, with 20 odd years of traveling the world. And now I had this substantive change. So what happened to me, what I tried to do was try to hang on to the experiences, try to hang on to the what I'd done in the past, and because that was familiar. And you know, you kind of look back to things that are familiar when you're navigating change, to hold on to something. It's a bit like when you're a kid and you're on a roundabout and you're spinning around and around and around and around and around and around, and then suddenly you stop and you're trying to fix on something familiar, something that can help you get your head back on track. And that's my best description of that. But what happened to me was not conscious, it was subconscious. I developed routine because I'd always been in management, and the context for me to have something in order, something that was a rock or an anchor that I could fall back on. And subconsciously I started to build a routine. Instead of putting in my calendar meetings with clients or meetings with contractors or site visits or whatever it was, I was putting in stuff like get up at 7 a.m, go to the gym, eat healthy food, learn whatever it is you want to learn. I'm studying photography now. I'm enjoying it. I've always wanted to do that, and now I'm doing that. I started to put things in my calendar like reading, and so my calendar was full of stuff that most people would think is crazy. But you know, I was used to having structure, used to having a routine. I don't have a to-do list as such. I just put it in my calendar, because too many things to have to remember to go look and read on are not good for you either. It's you know, chaos, and chaos is not a good thing. So for me, navigating change was all about routine. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I hadn't planned what I wanted to do yet. As I've said a couple of times in other videos, I have had experience in the construction and property business right the way from concept design for planning permission all the way through all the different phases through to the execution and delivery of projects. I'd had that experience for many years, many decades, and many years experience in each of those different elements. So I could have done anything. So what I chose to do was to follow a routine. Now, as I said earlier on, that was a bit subconscious, but it became more conscious as I started to do it. As I started to do it, it helped me to understand what I wanted to do, what my opportunities were. I mean, we live in a world now, a brave new world of the internet, a brave new world of social media, and there are many opportunities to make money in different ways and to pivot into a different lifestyle, a different work, and a different quality of life, different things to do that there used to be. It's not as straightforward as go get a job, work for 40 years, retire and get your watch and go. It doesn't work like that anymore. And that to me was exciting. There were opportunities where I could learn. So I started reading, I started exercising, I started getting healthy food, started cooking, I started doing a whole bunch of things that were all new to me. But I didn't do them with a game plan. There was no end game there. It was just doing the things I wanted to do, putting them in a calendar so I remembered to do them and I would follow them. I learned to read. I didn't learn to read, but I started to read books. In my whole career, my whole life, I'd read about 3 books. This year alone, I've read 5 books, and that is not a lot for some people, but for me, these books had meaning, they had structure, they had something about them. And in doing so, it helped me to find my why, because I didn't know what that why was. Keep doing more of the same of what you've already done, or pivot into something else. Learning photography for me is new. It's enjoyable. I now know how to navigate a real camera as opposed to pointing my phone at something and taking a shot. And I enjoy that. I get a kick out of that. But you know, using a camera for talking to you on YouTube is one thing, but there are other things that I started to do. I got back into my career. I set up a consultancy, but it was one step at a time. I was feeling my way through which direction. But that feeling of my way through all happened because I had a routine. I didn't have a game plan. Look, I think it's really important not to put yourself under pressure when you're navigating substantive change. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to know where you want to be in 2 to 5 years. There's no need for a 5-year plan. What you need when you're navigating change is structure. Simple things like getting up in the morning, making the bed, having your breakfast, going to bed at the same time every evening, getting into a structure, getting organized about how you do things, learning more. I learned by reading. I learned by watching YouTube videos. I learned how to speak to a camera, although you might think differently having watched this video. But a lot of the things that I do now, they didn't come about because I had a game plan. They came about because I put one step in front of the other and built a routine. My life built around a routine, then it pivoted into directions. I dialed in on what I want to do career-wise. I set up a consultancy. I'm supporting contractors build their businesses now, using my decades of tier 1 contracting experience in all the different elements that I've learned. And my game plan has evolved and developed. And I suppose the message from this video is don't put yourself under pressure to understand the end game. When you're going through substantial change, take it one step at a time. Don't feel guilty that you don't have the goal, you don't know where you're going, you don't know what you're doing. That's no problem, that's fine. That will come. Develop a routine. And look, I put it in my calendar. You don't have to, but I recommend that you do, because it helps you to get structure and plan your day, your week, your month. And that grows into when you start learning new stuff, when you start reading, when you start looking at, I studied the market, I studied my industry, and I studied what was going on, and a lot had changed in the culture of Ireland over 20 years. A lot had changed. Now I'm familiar, I'm up to speed with it. You get up to speed more quickly when you've got all that experience. But it took time. But I initially started, to be honest, in a kind of a panic mode. What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? What am I going to do now? What am I going to do now? I need a plan. I need to get... Because that's who I always was. I was always structured, always organized, and always planned. But in the nature of the business that I was doing, that's how it was. You had to be that way. That's how construction works. That's how buildings And that's how business works. When I started working and building a routine, there was forward motion. Forward motion, irrespective of direction, is very, very important. Because when you're moving forward, you're learning new things, you're experiencing opportunities. They only come when you move. They don't come when you sit. Nobody comes knocking on the front door and says, hey, here's an opportunity for you. When you're out there putting yourself about, talking to people, asking questions, finding out what's going on, you can pivot in different directions, and then you might find your why, you might find your direction. But it's very important to have that routine, I believe, because the routine gives you that forward motion, and forward motion leads to opportunity. For me, when everything else felt uncertain because I didn't have that plan at the early initial stages, a routine helped me have control. A lot of anxiety in life comes from not having control, not being in control. Having a routine helped me have control. I could control that. Couldn't control all the outcomes, but I could control what I did. I could control when I got up. I could control what I ate. I could control when I exercised, or if I exercised. I could control what I was reading. I could control the input that was going into my brain. That's what routine does for you. Puts you in control. And for me, that control killed the anxiety because I had a plan. Now, there was no end game plan, but there was a plan. There was something to do. There was the forward motion I spoke about earlier on. And when you've got that motion, you've got opportunity, because you're exposed to people, you're exposed to communities, you're exposed to opportunity. When you learn something new, you find yourself in a new community. Another thing that for me was important was not worrying too much about being properly motivated. You know, motivation is fleeting, comes and it goes. It's up and it's down. Routine gives you direction. And for me, even if I wasn't motivated to do something, if it was written down on that calendar, I went and did it anyway. And there was things I didn't want to do. I'd look at it and go, oh no. But you know what? I just started anyway. And when you start, I don't know about you, but I've always been the kind of person that I start something, I have to finish it. And when you finish something and do something and achieve something that you plan to do, it makes you feel good. That's where the motivation comes back in again. So for me, I wouldn't worry about whether you're motivated to do it. I wouldn't worry about whether you feel the right way. I always work on the philosophy of just do it anyway. And as you do it, your confidence grows, your ability to see further goes because you're further down the road. Don't wait for the motivation, just take the action. That's what routine does for you. And I suppose I'll finish this video on one thing. Routine for me brought clarity, and clarity brought direction. Direction brought end goals. So if you're navigating a difficult period in your life where you're navigating a substantive change, for whatever reason, first thing you do is relax. Don't put yourself under pressure to have all the answers. Take it one step at a time. Build a routine, a simple daily routine. Learn, read, educate yourself. Look after your body, look after your health, look after your mind. And as you're going through a routine to build up yourself, opportunities will come through the forward motion and you will get to where you want to go. And for me, that has been how I navigated change. Now, I hope that thought process, this chat here for this last period, has helped people who are navigating substantial change. And if it has, I'd like to hear about that in the comments. I want to build a community that works for you and that I can support and help people with the experiences that I've had in my life. So if you enjoy videos of this nature, please hit the subscribe button, a like, but more importantly, give me some comments so I can help you and the community navigate change in this changeable world. Till the next video.